Hey everybody, my name is Shuja and welcome to Parkaze, a show where we talk about people who are related to the transportation and parking industry. And today we have somebody special with us on the show. I'm excited to talk to the founder and chief executive officer of ParkHub, Mr. George Baker. Who is Mr. George Baker? Well, Mr. George Baker revolutionized the parking industry by software and hardware services for the parking industry with ParkHub that offers products such as multiple payment options, real-time reporting of parking revenue, support for dynamic pricing for clientele such as sports, for clientele that is in sports and in live entertainment scenes, university sector, and smart city initiatives across the United States. Recently, Mr. Baker was listed in the Dallas Business Journal 40 Under 40, and last year, in 2019, Mr. Baker was named NPA's 2019 Innovator of the Year. Apart from that, Mr. George Baker is the advisor Parkaze, and we've been always been help his views and his feedback has always been helpful for Parkaze. So please, Mr. George Baker, so happy to have you on our show with us. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, great. I think one of the questions that anybody is going to be asking you is how are you staying focused during COVID-19? And if you have any suggestions how to remain productive during this point in time.
Um, Focus during COVID-19 you, you know, very important from a mental health and wellness and personal side, just as much as it is on the business side. Um, the you really have to begin to think differently during this time because there's no clear understanding at this moment on how long the pandemic will continue. On the onset of this, 120 days ago, the expectations have vastly changed from my point of view, from my staff's point of view, and just from my personal friends network point of view. It certainly caused a lot of people to look inward and reevaluate how to do less or how to do more with less, and really to that point, what is important, what really truly drives the company forward. And specifically in kind of our world, ParkHub and Parkaze, it's we are driven by the transaction volume in vehicles parking. And unfortunately, at this time, simply people just aren't moving around because of the ordinances and orders of sheltering in place. And so, without the volume of traffic, it dramatically impacts businesses. And there is a trickle down or trickle up effect on that, both on a micro and macro level. And so, to go back to how to stay focused, you really got to get back into the agile methodology that we embraced in the early days of ParkHub, and really evaluating all opportunities. And be it through the years, we really looked at defining and documenting processes for scalable and repeatable aspects. I'm encouraging my team now to forego those processes that we once put in place, and I often message this "how can we" attitude, and so going back to kind of this startup, like just be scrappy. Let every dollar is valuable. So no longer if it's if it's out of scope of our ideal client profile, that doesn't mean it's not a worthy opportunity for us to exhaust resources on. So I guess to answer your question in short, how to stay focused is to be constantly iterating and improving. And understanding the market using data, and interviewing and listening to our customers, and thinking in a different way.
Oh, that's great. I think this is such a great insight for anybody who's trying to stay focus during this time. One thing that you mentioned that's really was really important is that how you started ParkHub and what are the struggles that you had when you were starting out. I read somewhere that as a kid you pulled weeds from Dallas parking lots that your father co-founded. First, my question is: A, is that true? And second, what lessons, what did you learn during those times that you applied to when you were, starting off, starting off ParkHub?
So it absolutely is true. I'll be 40 next week. That was literally over 30 years ago when I was cutting my teeth out in the parking lot, striping and sweeping lots before and preparing them to be striped. Um, and taught me a couple things. One is just the um, all of the intricacies and stakeholders to just manage an operation. So you've got maintenance and portership, and then you've got kind of the attendants and greeters, and then you've got kind of supervisor managers, and so I guess the hierarchy. And albeit to your point and comment, it was a family business at a young age. I was out there doing that. I had a very strict father that um, you know put me out there on the front lines, and I literally had to earn my way up through the operations. But what that allowed me to do is to understand the pitfalls and the shortfalls from a technology perspective. So rewind again. Now this is the late '80s, early '90s that I'm referring to, in which
Right.
I'm doing this. The industry over the last 5 or 10 years has really seen more improvements than it did the entire century before. So
Right.
parking literally got started in the early 1920s up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, is the understanding of the first coin meter, and literally from there wasn't a lot of change. I grew up in kind of the advent of the internet and was able to see how technology could provide efficiencies and could begin to connect people. And whether that was moving from a typewriter to a computer to predict it, to auto correction, but just the advancement of technology that was able to improve lives. I was able to utilize that and apply that to business processes that I was experiencing or I thought were painful in my operation side.
That's great. I think that even covers what we wanted to know, what are the challenges you faced when you started ParkUp. But now that you've seen the industry grow at such a rapid pace in a very short amount of time, really, what do you see is now is the biggest challenges that the parking industry faces, particularly in East Coast? What is one of those challenges that that's been the parking industry needs to face right now? And
Um,
that's not even has to do with COVID. That's pre-COVID. What was
no,
the
no, no.
situation?
Yeah, yeah. The biggest challenge is the the parking world, parking operators, um, uh, um, are siloed in nature in the way that they manage their business, and then they're very protective on their reporting. And so there's not a lot of transparency into the operations. And so the biggest challenge is unlocking the fear and the protectiveness of operations, and allowing for more of an alliance point of view and perspective on high tides raise all ships, and the fact that you know it particularly now more than ever, this idea, this mentality, and this kind of mantra that we're all in this together,
Right.
as we look to get through this pandemic. But I would certainly then also apply that to an industry, right? So
Right.
if the industry truly wants to thrive and come out on the other end of this, it's going to require cooperation from the asset owners to the service management to the hardware and technology that they apply, and then unlock that, because there is no standardization across that. So really opening up standards, and transparency into what's going on.
Oh, that's great. I think transparency is such a big issue right now all across the United States. Now with this pandemic going on, that's something that we all are dealing with. Is there a role, or what kind of role can federal or state government can play in resolving a lot of the issues that's related to parking? Or is there more transparency on their end? Is there change in policies? What would you say? What can a role they play to resolve?
Well, well, one, the way the government agencies can help and play a role into that is you know, historically, for building permits to build a new structure, or existing to gain or get a CO, you have these certain requirements, and they go everything from lighting and outlets, and HVA systems, but it also ties into parking ratios to ensure that people can have adequate means for transportation to get into that particular space. As you get into kind of denser markets, Boston, New York, San Francisco, the parking requirements don't make a lot of sense because of the mass transit systems,
Right.
and just before all of this, the micromobilities that were helping service that. But now you've got bikes and bike lanes, and you
Yeah.
know and just people walking. But my point is that there's other modalities outside of a vehicle, to and there might be multiple modalities along that journey, but to facilitate from home to office or wherever they might be going. So the idea of the parking requirements, really truly needs to be evaluated. But then going back to my other comment on the siloed information sets, you can't manage what you can't measure, and these aren't public or data sets, and even if they were public data sets, a lot of them haven't even digitally transcribed this, so you really don't even know. And therefore you can't make policy decisions without having data. So that would be the first blocker of that.
Right. And I think, having this sort of insight that you're giving has sort of played such a fundamental role in, developing startup like ours, like Parkaze. And if you've played such a huge role in supporting startups who are in this sort of industry and giving them that push, my question to you is what makes you actually go out and help us or help our upcoming tech startup like ours? Why do you go out of your way to make that effort to support initiatives like ours?
Um, One is because I've been supported along the way, right? And it's a bit of a giving back mentality, and as much as the mentor mentee relationship goes, that a mentor gets as much out of the discussion and relationship as a mentee does. And I've always been a big proponent of surrounding myself with like-minded individuals, specifically for solutioning, and always promoted diversity and inclusion to get various vantage points and understanding. And so, supporting a startup community is important. One, because I was supported throughout that, but I love entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship and is in capitalism is what the crux that the U.S. economy is built on. And you don't know whether through investing and angel investing and other uh, uh, industries, there's a lot of pattern recognition that I see from going from ideation, and getting MVP out into the market, and then through product market fit, and then scaling a business, whether that's in a retail, clothing or flip flop company to a parking technology startup. All the challenges are the same. Is how do you acquire the customer? How do you monetize the customer to the highest capacity, and then from there, how do you scale the operation? So, passing on that information, and helping entrepreneurs thrive, is uh, I, it's a bit of a adrenaline rush in the fact
Right.
that I get a high out of solutioning and finding and fixing things and
Right.
problem solving, and also working with the mall, for example, it's awesome to see him take the lessons learned, that I've had, and apply them to his business. And it's also it's always good to have the challenges, and why would I do it that way when I know that this works? So it's the it, um I get as much of it out of it as that he does. And again, to my point, I've been shepherded by a lot of great advisors, both professionally and personally, and just giving back is just part of my philosophy.
I mean, that's amazing, and that you've taken such initiatives, and it's been paying results, been showing fruit. I think that is a tremendous initiative, and I think one of the main things that we also believe in giving, helping other, opportunities, and one of the things that we really focused here is green initiatives, being sustainable, being green, going out of our way to do something that's going to help not only the economy but our environment. And Parkaze and here we're all about sustainability and being green. Uh, what do you think? And this is a global concern right now. This is a global issue right now. I think even what we're going through during this pandemic, this is something that's a testament to that. How do you think, how can smart and better parking contribute to sustainability across the United States?
Yeah. So, just one specific data point, from a sustainability standpoint. There's a lot of, they over 30%, carbon emissions, on a footprint, in a metropolitan city, is attributed to the search of a patron trying to find a parking spot. So that being said, the discovery and the transaction piece of the parking, the faster and the most efficient manner in which you can do to that, absolutely affects that search. Therefore, reduces that carbon footprint that is put out, which then helps, to your point and your comment, on a sustainability standpoint.
That's great, and we've really been, investing ourselves into that initiatives, and definitely will be reaching out to you if there's any help on that. Uh, Thank you so much, sir, for taking out your time and talking to us. I think this is your insight and your feedback would just be an incredible asset to people who are watching us, who's going to be listening to us. Right now, we just got the news that you've raised about $15 million at ParkHub, and that's been a great anything. So, what's the next big thing are you doing? What's your next big initiative? What's your next big goal?
Yeah. So, um, we are a design first, enterprise, B2B solution. And albeit we built our platform to solve the needs, that I experienced and I mentioned earlier in the parking world, the idea of revenue capture, in high velocity throughput areas, and which we were solving for parking, also is the same acute need that you have for people movement. And that people movement could be to festivals, that people movement could be into camp and recreational areas, or state parks or national parks, or even building entry into a venue. So kind of what's next for us is same product, different use case. And
Right.
so utilizing a flexible, reliable endpoint, consolidated mobile point of sale that is able to authenticate a prepaid reservation or a credential, take on-site payment in a contactless, frictionless world, and to remove the cash is where we're
Right.
moving. So we're moving well beyond parking. We have a vision and a mission at ParkHub to optimize the world's journeys. And those world's journeys are not just exclusively in a modality of a vehicle. It's everywhere. So
That's that you're definitely changing the game. It's revolutionizing as you go ahead. I think this is your insight, your feedback has been such a valuable asset to our people. I think people who would like to know more about ParkHub, they can definitely go to www.parkhub.com and get all the information out there. That's them and how they're leading the conversation in terms of parking and transportation. That's it for our show today. You can definitely follow us, Parkaze, at VR Parkaze. Mr. George Baker, thank you so much for taking out your time. You've been a great guest to have around our show. And we'll definitely be
glad.
looking forward to your advice. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you guys. Appreciate being on the show. Good luck. Everybody stay safe, be well, and abide by your orders.
Definitely. Thank you so much, sir. All
Okay.
right.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.